What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today we got Desaparecidos and their album Read Music, Speak Spanish, brought to us by a friend, longtime supporter, patron of the channel, Conor Oberst, super fan, and just all around great music taste. Caitlin, appreciate you, appreciate all the patrons who make this thing go. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out that Patreon link below, the Patreon link on the Instagram. We could not make it without the patrons. All right, Desaparecidos, I have practiced that word over and over and over again, so I didn't butcher it. They are an American punk rock band from Omaha, Nebraska, headed by singer-guitarist Conor Oberst, of course the frontman of the indie rock band Bright Eyes. Formed in 2001, Desaparecidos figuratively means disappeared ones in Spanish and Portuguese, and is a reference to the people who were arrested by various South American right-wing military dictatorships and then vanished without a trace. More specifically, they take their name from the forcibly disappeared under Augusto Pinochet's right-wing military dictatorship in Chile between 1973 and 1990. Of course, Conor's going to come up with a name like this, right? Desaparecidos broke up in 2002 while the band was attracting an increasingly large following after their debut album. However, Conor did not have the time to dedicate to the band with the continually increasing success of Bright Eyes, right? He only got so much time. He continued to record with Bright Eyes while the other members of Desaparecidos went on to form other projects. Starting in 2010, they reunited a few different times, a couple concerts. They'd release a song here or there. In the streaming world, you can do that without being a, quote, single. Then in June 2015, they released their second album, Paola, which was 13 years after this one. A little bit on this one. This one, Read Music, Speak Spanish, is their debut, released in 2002, of course, on Saddle Creek Records. Most of the reviews were pretty positive. This album is a punk indie rock concept album loosely centered on perceived American materialism and greed. Well, that hasn't changed. Song topics include the pressures of upward mobility on marriage, the suburban expansion of Omaha, which is my hometown, although I moved from there when I was 13, the desire to always follow the latest fashion or fad. Boy, with influencers now, that's even worse. The effect of consumerism on developing countries and the mixture of religion and politics. It's good to know 21 years after this album was made, absolutely nothing has changed for the better. The album was recorded in 1 week, the same week as the September 11 attacks, right? 9/11. Since the concept of the album is a criticism of American consumerism, the band considered not releasing it. And partly due to this timing, the album failed commercially, right? It's just a bad time if you lived through it. It was not a time you want to bring this out. Despite its lack of commercial success, it's gained an extensive cult following. Okay, the music is not going to be in the video, but it's going to be in a Vimeo link below. So go check that out. Let's jump into it with a very interesting title, Man and Wife, The Former. And then in parentheses, financial planning. There is not much on these songs. There's not much on these guys out there, right? It's not like Conor. You dive into a Conor or most Bright Eyes, especially later ones. You get a ton of research. You get interviews. There's just not a lot out there on that. But I'm going to have the lyrics up as always. Thanks again, Caitlin. All right, interesting to hear Conor in this environment, right? I just did the album Lifted for Caitlin last month, and this came out at about the same time. They're polar opposites, so Conor's been able to get his rock on here. A really interesting song as it unfolds, right? It is kind of how it's done, right? So he started with a sample of these girls talking, basically, as far as supportive, he would have to support me financially. I like a man that has money, that has goals in life. So then it starts out where in the first verse, Conor's getting up and his wife's pouring the coffee. He's like, I can't sleep like you can. And she's like, well, here's the coffee, but it doesn't help with your anxiety. So he's feeling pressure, right? Because he's got to provide for the family. I just think you can't concentrate at work in verse 2. The payment plans I'm making, I just wanted to provide for you. Just getting himself in debt. So many of us do this because that's what we're taught to do, basically. Our parents teach us, commercialism teaches us this. But if you want to hit the pre-course, if you want to make a run for it, my love, I'd cover you. And if you need money for your bills, my love, I'd cover you. Because I sold some stuff. I'm saving up. We can get that house next to the park. I'll get more hours at my dad's shop. Yeah, we'll plan for everything. And we'll enroll in that middle class. Get a compact car full of discount tags. If you're feeling trapped or too attached, remember, we wanted that. So that's what they wanted. And then the next, that was the chorus. But the next chorus, because we're growing old, they're growing up. So now some time has passed. Just like our parents before us, with your new job at the coffee shop. So now she's working. We're ready for anything. And we'll graduate that middle class. Get a nicer car full of shopping bags. If you're feeling sad, kind of detached, remember we wanted that. Remember we wanted that. So a midlife crisis is hitting. But yeah, like you think you want all these things and you wake up one day and you're trapped in them because you have them all and you have all the payments and you don't really have, you feel this pressure to keep it up every month, to keep those bills up. And I've been in that in my life several times, man. It's not a fun place to be. Next up, we have mañana, or mañana, which means tomorrow in Spanish, by the way. Just basically telling us, throughout the song that we've been told, they have how to act and how to be, but they're going to make make up their own ways. They're not going to listen to the old ways. I mean, that's basically what it's doing. And then it has this talk about Omaha at the end, which the next song is Greater Omaha. So I imagine it's playing into that. But how it's growing and this and that. The next song is called Greater Omaha, but the Greater Omaha area has a million population. So they have everything already that they're talking about there. But I thought Manana was a good song. I didn't like it actually as well as the first song, Man and Wife, the former, but it was a good song and really good instrumentation. Already gave it away, but let's go to Greater Omaha. All right, that outro, I imagine, is building into our next song. But Greater Omaha, great guitar work where they're at Denver Dowley and Conor, I guess. I mean, they're the two that are listed as guitarists. That was a strong point of this song for me. Basically just talking about how Omaha used to be pretty and have all these, I haven't been there in forever, have all these wide open fields, which they did on the outskirts, and now those really aren't there anymore because the upper classes and upper middle class is taking it over, and the lower class are basically having to pay for it by lower wages and stuff like that, and telling them, go get your degree and then you can join us, but you're going to have to hold them down. So a good song. Like I said, the instrumentation was really nice. Now we have what appears to be a sequel, Man and Wife, the latter, Damaged Goods. Remember, the first song was Man and Wife, the former, Financial Planning. So let's check this one out. Man and Wife, the latter, Damaged Goods. I think it's written from the perspective of the wife, right? I mean, for a second it took me, but I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what it's for a little bit at least, she's, but I don't know, maybe it's not in the start. I'm growing out my hair like it was when I was single. It was longer than I've known you. I had no money then. I had no worries in it all. From the first song, it almost seemed like it was Conor singing That's Such a High Standard of Living. I just feel like I'm dying. It started an argument, but you can barely even talk. There's good reason for your silence. Have to take care of some business. So I fix your plate and I stay out of the way. So then I think, well, no, it's actually got to be the wife here probably because he was the one who was working so hard. But I mean, in a lot of ways, it's not his fault, right? Because she pushed him into this course, but you'll stay like that forever right in front of your computer. You look up one day, but you won't recognize me. And then I think it's him singing from his perspective. So you want to change, read a letter from a lawyer, want to take me out to dinner, you want to bury me under a mound of shopping bags. I mean, maybe not. Maybe that's the woman too. I could really make a difference or make up for your disinterest. I'm a bill you pay. Okay, so I guess it is the woman. I'm a contract you can't break. The very last, the bridge, the word is low, the word is lost, the words are damaged goods. That's what I am. Wow, I mean, this is a really good song. The guitar works fantastic in the instrumentation. You feel the emotion, just raw emotion, almost the screaming of Conor's lyrics at times. Really well done. Now we got Mall of America. I don't know if it's the Mall of America in Minneapolis. I've never been there, but I know what it is. All right, a cool play on words at the start. They say it's murder on your folk career, with Bright Eyes, to make a record with the Disappeared, which is what Desaparecidos. I had it down at the start, didn't I? That's what that means in Spanish, remember? And so send the National Guard to the Mall of America is another one. This the capitalism, the commercialism, and they dress dead bodies up in tight designer jeans. Diesel product looks good. It looks good. Yeah, it does. So, dead souls. And I'm going to lie down with the common sound. I'm going to bury my blues so it's never found. I'm going to learn to pay attention to the television sets. All these things. The very end, so I buy a fountain soda, put some sugar on my tongue. I'll wake up and write some songs with no soul, with no soul, with no soul, which is kind of a shout out from the Lifted album to Waste of Paint, that song. It ends with the same lines in there, sort of. And I think that was the first song that Caitlin ever heard, is what she had said from Bright Eyes, or one of the first ones. So kind of a full circle moment there, but well done. And you definitely feel the emotion, especially in that bridge, that outro from Conor. Except we have the happiest place on earth. I'm curious to where Conor says that is. The happiest place on earth. A lot of times Disney references themselves that way, but I didn't want to throw shade at Disney in the start. That's what the first thing I was thinking of. And then I thought, well, he's talking about America throughout the song, which I'll get to in a minute, but he does get a shout out to Disney in there. But, a lot of things in their plays on the Star Spangled Banner, a little bit America the Beautiful, basically saying there's not enough to go around for everyone, right? They've been you're kind of sold this in school, this dream that really can't come true for a lot of us. So Conor's definitely making a statement on this album. Not one that I necessarily disagree with by any means, and one that's, I would say, more true 21 years later than it was then. We got a little Survival of the Fittest / It's a Jungle out there. All right, I'm sure as many of these other songs that outro is building into the next song, but Survival of the Fittest, It's a Jungle out there. Some really good lyricism here. I thought some really good vocals. The guitar work is fantastic, which is kind of the theme of this album, which obviously is much harder for Conor Oberst. Talking about the car accident, the doctors and lawyers like vultures descend, then talking about the insurance salesman by my policies. Loan sharks will circle until they can make sure it's paid. Take the cash from my hand, hear the register saying, and the roar of the lion logo on the screen. So MGM's logo, right, going to the movies. He's hungry. I should buy some popcorn. So I exit the building blind in the sun, and the bobcats look tired. They ate their fill of asphalt. Not bobcat, the animal, bobcat, the construction that breaks up the ground because we need more parking. The news cameras capture guerrilla warfare. Eagles into buildings, crash land despair. Landed despair. Is that all there is now in a cubicle cage that smells like a rat whose smile gets bigger along with your debt? Don't take it personal. It's just business. So more of the consumerism that gets us all in trouble, which I would guess the next song is $4 would probably continue on this song. The longest song on here by far, over 5 minutes long. All right, dollar signs. That's what I'm going to call it. I don't know what you'd really call it. I don't know what the formal name for it would be. Some good stuff in here. Then we get some commercials interspersed in here. We definitely get the idea. After 8 songs, we get the idea that Conor is upset at consumerism. And, you know, in this song, he's speaking out against it, but then you get the idea that he's part of it, not him himself, but the protagonist in this. And, you know, going to build a factory the size of a country. Doesn't believe in handouts, so they're going to have to work for it, kind of the sweatshops of the factories. Gets in the Golden Arch a couple times, a little shot at McDonald's because, of course, they're by far the most popular restaurant in the world, fast food restaurant, and they pay very low wages, at least in the U.S. They do. But yeah, some really good stuff in this one. Now we're to the last track, Hole in One. All right, Hole in One, talking about the man at the bank at the start. And then you took your family to join the urban sprawl. You can't see the stars as well, but you're near them all. Don't know where you stand no more in the convenient line store. That's way too long. You used to work your lands, used to be a farmer, fed 1,000 mouths. Now you eat their blank for the money now, emptied your heart to fill your bank account. And I swear to you, I'm thinking, Conor, you're really bordering on being hypocritical. But he's not, because he says the next very next verse, well, I should talk, I'm just the same, buy my records down at the corporate chain. I tell myself I shouldn't be ashamed, but I am. Then talking about this girl who's an activist, but you know, she's not going to buy their clothes or anything, but will shell it out for filling up her nose and the cocaine. So run it up, I'll run my mouth. Never mind the blank that I sing about, because I'd sell myself to buy an effing house. And he describes the house, 12,000 square foot. I know it can seem like a lot. That's why I pay someone to clean it up, my big house. So he lets you know at the very end of this album that, yes, I realize I'm being hypocritical. So I thought that was kind of a clever way to end the album. And now we're going to get to my favorite tracks. Honorable mention that last track, Hole in One, for a little bit of self-awareness. The first track, Man and Wife, the former, financial planning. Faves are going to be Man and Wife, the latter, Damaged Goods, and Survival of the Fittest / It's a Jungle Out There. That's one song, are my faves. Now we're going to get to my overall score. I need to give a shout out to I mentioned Denver Dowley, along with Conor on the guitars. That's the highlight here. Ian McElroy on the keys, Landon Hedges on the bass and some vocals, and Matt Baum on the drums, which are very good. So now I get to my overall score. Look, I've run a lot, or most of, the Bright Eyes catalog. I'm a huge Conor fan, done a bunch of his solo stuff. All that thanks to Caitlin, and another one of our patrons, Vita, has contributed some as well, including the Better Oblivion Community Center. So I know a lot of Conor, right? And the writing on here is good. I think the problem with this album, and yeah, there's some problems, and I don't really say that with much Bright Eyes or Conor stuff, is that it's only 9 songs, 37 minutes. It's a good thing, because the theme of what it is, it wears on you after a little bit, right? And I don't know that I love a Conor shouting. I don't know if that's suited for him, but you know, it's hard because you're going with a bias, right? Because I think a lot of him, and I think a lot of his catalog. So you're going with this bias, and if it doesn't sound like you think it should sound, then you end up thinking less of it. So I already realize and acknowledge that bias. If it wasn't Conor, I don't know anything about it, I may think differently, but you can't really check that at the door, right? But for me, it's going to be a 6.75. It's good. It's not great. I don't think I'd listen to it again. I like the message that he's sending. It's even more relevant to me, I think, 22 years later, unfortunately. So the lyrics are good, as they always are, but they do tend to wear on you a little bit after a while, but still good instrumentation. I mean, Conor's still good. So a 6.75, it's not a horrible score by any means if you think that a 5 is average. But let me know what you think of this album down below. I'm wondering what Paola sounds like all those years later, right? Is it going to be a little different? But yeah, let me know what you think below, your favorite tracks. And until next time, guys, I will see you.